fight's not over.
Stop the fight!
People.
Everybody, I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king. Kill everybody. Ah!
Okay, guys, welcome back to Broke Bets. Giving you guys our early picks for UFC 293. Lane here. I got my co-host Carson with me.
Yes, sir. 293. Adesanya, Strickland. It should be an all right card, I suppose.
It's all right, but I think there's gonna be exciting fights. There's not the highest level of fighters, but I think there's gonna be exciting fights still. So, let's just get into it. First fight: Kevin Jousset versus Kiefer Crosbie. Give me Kevin here. Not super confident on this pick. I don't think either of these guys are quite UFC level. Kiefer Crosbie kind of looking like he's getting his opportunity just for getting a knockout win over Alex Oliveira in his previous fight, but Cowboy Oliveira's kind of not being himself. He's being a little bit wild. He left his chin up in the air, got caught, rocked a couple times. If you go back and just watch Kiefer Crosbie's performances against Charlie Learley, he's getting tagged and he's getting hit up pretty easily. Jousset isn't anything special, but he does have okay defensive striking just from the hooks, which is mostly going to be Kiefer Crosbie's game plan here. And I think Jousset can take this one to a decision. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, Jousset's only been finished by one guy, and that was Madalena. But that was back in 2019 due to doctor stoppage with a cut. So he's shown he's pretty durable here. Crosbie's been finished twice. One of those was a doctor stoppage and then arm triangle choke.
Yeah, I don't see a great finishing ability on the side of Kevin Jousset. I think he fights a little bit slow. I'm probably saying that wrong. Kevin Jousset or whatever, probably something French. He's not that fast. He likes to use a jab and a teep kick, but for the most part, he's just trying to stay out of range. And again, like Kiefer Crosbie's just, a lot of his punches are just left hook, right hook. And if you watch the film, Jousset's arms are always kind of up here blocking the hooks, so it's going to be hard for him to land those strikes. I just think the better striker here is Jousset, and he'll take this one to a decision. Yeah, probably a 29-28, loses the first round. Jousset by decision. Okay, guys, for the next fight, we have Nasrat Haqparast versus Landon Quinones. Gotta take Nasrat Haqparast here. Super experienced striker. We have a nice southpaw versus southpaw matchup here. And for the most part, Quinones is a striker himself. So heading into this matchup, it's kind of who has the more high-level experience striking. And I got to go with Nasrat in that side. Even though Makdessi's not the best fighter, has a lot of striking experience. Faced Bobby Green, faced Dan Hooker. I mean, Dan Hooker tried to take him down a lot, but I really like about Nasrat is he's got a really good sting on the end of his left hand, and he uses the weapon so well. He sets it up well. He can punch the jab out there. And Quinones, I'm not seeing it all yet. I'm going to pick Nasrat by decision, but what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, I think decision is probably the right choice here. Nasrat hasn't finished anybody since 2017, so I really like his footwork, his hand speed, moves in and out of range, and he circles around the cage pretty well using that footwork. So, yeah, like you said, he's got a good left, and he likes that left kick as well. And I like he works the body. So, give me Haqparast by decision.
Quinones, too, something that just didn't make me feel great about watching his film is I thought he looked a little bit stiff at times in his stance, and he sometimes hesitates on finishing his punches. It looks like his arms are kind of moving without his hips, so there's not that snap power on the end of his punches. And I just think Nasrat's going to be so much faster than him. I have Nasrat parlayed up, and I'll go over the other legs of that as we go on here. So, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, Haqparast has been in the UFC for a little bit. It's 2018, 2017. And they're pretty much the same age, 28 and 27. So he's got the far better strength of schedule here.
Some good names on that list as well for Haqparast. But yeah, Haqparast by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Jamie Mullarkey versus John Makdessi feels like a no-brainer on the Jamie Mullarkey side, having a 4-inch height advantage, a 6-inch reach advantage. John Makdessi, pretty experienced, but I don't like about his style is he's kind of on the back foot and he's waiting for you to make a move before he can try to counter or whatever. And he's just hesitant, and it could just lead to Mullarkey pushing him back the entire fight and him circling. So I just imagine that Mullarkey, in this instance, will touch Makdessi, with the jab, the right hand for the first 2 or 3 rounds, or first 2 rounds, I shouldn't say first 2 or 3, but first 2 rounds, and Makdessi will just be down on the scorecards, and he'll let it ride to a decision. What do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, seems like a setup matchup for Mullarkey here in Australia. He's got, 9 years of youth advantage here. And, I just think if Mullarkey was to lose, it would probably be by KO, but I just don't think Makdessi has that KO power. Mullarkey's been KO'd quite a bit of late. Well, twice.
We got rocked against Michael Johnson to the point of a knockout, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. And Makdessi hasn't finished anyone in probably his last 10 fights. It's been a long time, and I think Mullarkey could implement some of his wrestling here as well, just to stay a little safer.
Yeah, he's been doing a good job of that in a couple of his fights. The Pedro fight, especially, kind of how he's pulling away was the grappling. Mullarkey, his last performance wasn't horrible, but it was just that one fatal flaw. You shoot in for the takedown, and he just put his chin straight up in the air and froze, and boom, you just get smoked by some Tajikistan dude. But other than that, he was for the most part winning the fight. He's pretty hittable, and that's kind of the scare when you were talking about him getting knocked out. It's just because he's just out there to be hit a little bit, but his weird albino kind of no eyebrows look, I don't know. Somehow he's going to survive this and win decision here. Any more thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like you said at the start, huge height and reach advantage and youth advantage. Everything's on his side here. Home advantage. I think if it's close decision, it's going to go to him. So.
Right. All right, Mullarkey by decision. Okay, guys, for the next fight, we have Shane Young versus Gabriel Miranda. What a weird fight. And this matchup is, I think, look dominant for whoever wins in some way. And I'm going to go on the Miranda side. I just haven't been impressed with Shane Young since he's been in the UFC. He just, for one, featherweights is a division of speed, anything below 170, you kind of just need speed to be in the game and doing well. And Shane Young moves like a fucking middleweight, which is not a good thing. And he's gained all this muscle. It looks good or whatever, but he doesn't crack super hard. And he doesn't have super high volume striking, and it's a bit of a scare. Miranda, he has the dangerous submissions, mostly the guillotine that he's looking for. I think you might need to repeat the stat for me. I think it's 15 wins by submission. Am I correct there? Do you know?
Yeah, 15 of the 16 wins for him are by submission.
I think it's going to be actually really hard for him to pull off a submission in this fight because Shane Young's never been submitted before and doesn't give up the horrible positions on the ground. So we're going to stick with it just because 15 submissions. And we'll stick with round 1 when they're dry, but a big if on this fight. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this fight could go either way. Like you said, Shane Young's never been submitted before. He's been KO'd once, but most of his losses are by decision. And same for Miranda. I mean, all of his losses are mostly by decision as well. So Blake Builder was able to get Shane Young down in the first round, but then he wasn't able to get him down in 2 or 3. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Shane Young's takedown defense was at 65%, but I think it's quite a lot better than that. I think most of those were against Volkanovski.
Right.
But anywho, I think Miranda in that first round, he's super dangerous, and if he's going to win, it's most likely in that first round by submission.
I think one of the scares for Miranda in this fight, too, if you remember Daniel Marcos versus Simon Oliveira, Simon Oliveira came out kind of as like Gabriel Miranda, like wants to pull guillotines and be all crazy. Came out hot and just tired himself out in round 1, and then Daniel Marcos destroyed him. And I could totally see Gabriel Miranda just not knowing how to pace this fight because he's a finishing guy, a finisher. And that submission, if it doesn't happen, it could be a really, really big scare. However, I do think Gabriel Miranda actually had some pretty good striking against Benoit Saint Denis.
Yeah, they were a little brawly. He did crack him, though.
Yeah, and given that as well, that fight was at 155. This fight's at featherweight. And, Benoit Saint Denis is already one of the biggest 155ers in the division. And now Miranda's getting a more appropriate fight as a weight class. So he's getting cracked by a bigger guy, a guy who hits harder. Now he's coming down to a more reasonable fight here. So it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. I thought Miranda hit some decent punches on the feet, so we'll see. But for right now, gotta stick with Miranda by submission. Okay, guys, for the next fight, we have Blood Diamond versus Charlie Radtke. I'm going to go on the Charlie Radtke side. Just feels like Blood Diamond isn't as good of a kickboxer as everyone thought he was going to be when he came into the UFC. It was more hype and being around Israel Adesanya and having that, referral from Israel that gave him some name in the UFC. There is still good somewhat striking there, but Radtke himself is actually a pretty good striker. Kickboxing style, pretty good at being in and out of range, and has some decent heavy hands as well. I don't really think this fight's going to hit the ground, maybe late, because Blood Diamond's takedown defense as the fight goes on seems to diminish, so I like Radtke to win a decision here, and for the most part, I see this as a striking battle. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Blood Diamond's going to be chopping that leg early on. I think, in his last 2 fights, the takedown defense was okay to start. He stopped the initial takedowns, but as the fight went on, like you said, it diminished. And I questioned his IQ a little bit in the Kose fight. He had him hurt in the second round and then insisted on clinching with him, which was just outrageous. He probably could have got the finish in that second round if he got distance and just poured it on him.
Right.
But, and for Radtke, in his last fight, he did get the submission, but he was the one that got taken down, and he just reversed Forrest and was able to find a submission. He only has 2 subs on his record, 3 knockouts and 2 decisions. So, a tough fight to call. I don't agree with the odds at all, especially because it is at Australia as well for Blood Diamond.
Right. This is to me an extremely dodgy fight. Yeah, like you said, it's like minus 240 right now for Charlie Radtke. That's a pretty high number for a striking match. Again, that's what I see in this fight. I don't really see grappling. I haven't seen Radtke shoot a takedown in any of his fights. So
yeah, and Radtke's 33 years old, making his debut.
Yeah,
up there.
And then you also mentioned, which was I think really key information. Blood Diamond actually did have pretty decent takedown defense versus Orion Kose, who's a wrestler, in round 1. And then when round 3 came around and he lost all of his energy from clinching, he kind of just has that Yorsi Belgari or whatever that just fought in the Contender Series. He got so tired from clinching and grappling that in the later rounds he was easier to take down. So that's the scare for him. I like Radtke's footwork a little bit better in and out of range, but he's also a little bit low volume at times. He's got, a decent body kick, some decent hands, but if you watch Blood Diamond stuff, he likes to end a lot of combinations with a kick. And, to the judges, that can look very, very good. So a little bit of a scare there, but I do think the power, the accuracy, and the overall just efficiency of striking will be on the Radtke side. Any more thoughts?
Nada.
All right. Radtke by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Jack Jenkins versus Chepe Mariscal. Gonna go with Jack Jenkins here. I like the striking style better. The heavy kicks attack, and he's just always facing his opponent and uses all of his striking tools really well. He's a little bit short, but he's facing another short fighter here. A lot of people thought Emmers won. I thought that Emmers won the previous fight, but it was close. I mean, Jenkins just has this thing where he is like Justin Gaethje with his leg kicks, where he doesn't really give a shit if you even try to check him. He's just gonna keep throwing him as hard as he can because he knows it's gonna hurt you more than him. And I think it's really hard for opponents to deal with because those leg kicks add up over the course of 3 rounds. I think a knockout could happen here late in the fight just from that accumulation of damage to the legs. What do you think?
Yeah, nailed it. I think the accumulation of damage with the leg kicks will be on the side for Jack Jenkins. I mean, Mariscal in his fight with Trevor Peek, I mean, obviously Trevor Peek is a wild man, and he threw like 1 or 2 leg kicks that actually landed, and you could see the red mark on Mariscal's thigh. I think Jack Jenkins, he's going to be chopping that leg the entire fight. He works the body as well, which I really like as well, and he cuts off the cage really well. So I think Mariscal will be circling the cage, Jenkins will be cutting him off and landing those leg kicks and eating up that leg kick.
Yeah, and it's a completely different stylistic matchup for Chepe here. You know, you're fighting Trevor Peek, the chaos, almost said inbred, guy from Alabama or whatever. And then you're going in to fight a guy who's actually like technical and not throwing baseball punches at you. But,
hammer fist, standing hammer fist.
Yeah. So, you know, it's very different. Chepe obviously looked good with some things he did in the Peek fight because he's doing judo throws on a dude who's sprinting at him and has no balance. So, very stylistically different, but I do think, again, advantages like striking, and then just got a kind of a close decision leaning his way for Jack Jenkins, and then as well, we're in Australia, so kind of all the factors, in my opinion, leaning towards Jenkins.
Yeah, I mean, this is a completely different matchup from Jenkins's last one, where he was fighting Emmers, who is way longer, taller. That's tough to deal with. This one, he's fighting a guy with the same height, pretty much same reach as well as him. So,
right. Okay. Jack Jenkins, KO, round 3. Okay, for the next fight, we have Carlos Ulberg versus Daun Young. Seems like a pretty easy pick, right, everybody? I mean, Carlos Ulberg on this knockout streak. And again, he's so good with this lead hand that he has. The jab, the left hook, the Negumereanu fight where he went straight to the jab to the left hook. He's just overall fast, and he uses his movement well. Daun Young, this guy wants to clinch, and he wants to control you. And I think the performance he had against Devin Clark was so underwhelming that it's hard to rationalize him doing much better because he's controlling Devin Clark in the clinch, then failed to do some damage, and Clark hit him with some good shots that had him off balance. I just did not like that performance, and Carlos Ulberg will use his movement here, and I think he has just the timing to find the right strike, and I gotta go with first round knockout. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to the Nikolai Negumereanu fight, Ulberg was pretty much a slight favorite, I think like minus 125, and you said you're not going to find this good of a line for Ulberg in a really long time, so you're right there. I think he's minus almost 300, minus 275 right now. Yeah, I just think his movement, timing, his straights, especially with Daun Young in that Jacoby fight, I think Jacoby just knocked him down and finished him with like a jab. So
right, and he cuts a lot of weight, Daun Young.
Yeah, I see Ulberg with a similar style victory here, another KO.
Yeah, he doesn't protect his face very well, and again, that loss to Kennedy, the one loss that everyone will probably reference throughout Carlos Ulberg's career will be the judgment, just because he went for such a crazy finish and he tired out. And if you've just been watching his last couple fights, it's literally just been touch and move until he finds a kill shot. So it's not really the same style that he was fighting in that fight. Jung, obviously knocking out Kennedy Nzechukwu, but again, he's kind of this like clinch guy who was just powerful. So if he wants to win this fight, he's got to drain Ulberg, but that also requires cutting down the distance to even grab him. So that's going to be hard for him to do, in my opinion. Any more thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, and he would have to survive the first round with Ulberg, which would be hard to do.
Okay, Ulberg, KO, round 1. Also, parlayed Ulberg and Jack Jenkins together. There you go, guys. Okay, for the next fight, we have Manel Kape versus Felipe dos Santos. I gotta go with the motherfucking star boy. Gotta go with Manel Kape here. It's a interesting fight because these shoot the box guys, Charles Oliveira's boys with the blonde hair. They're good fighters, and Felipe dos Santos is a very good fighter. But what a tough matchup to come into here at 125, where you're facing a very fast striker who's well-rounded. And Dos Santos, if you haven't seen the Hugo Paiva fight, go watch it. It is a phenomenal first round of back-and-forth action. But Kape here will probably be on the back foot and touching and moving as Dos Santos has to come forward and kind of eat the punishment. And his cardio holds up pretty well, Felipe dos Santos, but he got tagged to the body a lot in his last fight. And you could see, even just with his elbows came down every time he got hit to the body. He never crumbled over and fell down from it, but it looked like it was a couple away from that point multiple times in that fight. So I'm going to go with a body shot finish from Manel Kape in round 2. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, Manel Kape and Dos Santos. I think Dos Santos coming in 3 weeks, maybe, short notice. 3, maybe 4.
He's training for the Contender Series, though, as well. So he's kind of had a full camp. But it's definitely still, short notice.
Different matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Kape, obviously, we know he has that power, and that is the ultimate equalizer. I think he's fought the better competition as well, too. I just think at some point he will be able to find that killer shot and finish Dos Santos.
Yeah, and my problem with Manel Kape sometimes is the hesitation. He, when he was fighting David Dvorak, like, he could have just killed David Dvorak whenever he wanted, but he just kind of toyed with him the whole fight, and he could just, like, put it on somebody. Dos Santos, I think he's just going to be up in his grill the whole fight, similar to, like, an Elvis Brenner. I think the best comparison is Daniel Santos at the same camp. They just seem to be those pressure-type fighters, and the flying knees and stuff all kind of crazy, but you just can't get clipped that much versus a guy like this. And again, a tough debut. The only thing holding back Manel Kape would maybe be, low, not having high enough volume. But when you're on steroids or you get caught using steroids, like Manel Kape did like a year ago, probably should win the fight, right? So,
yeah.
All right. Manel Kape, KO, round 2. Okay, for the next fight, we have Tyson Pedro versus Anton Turkalj, whatever you say his last name. Tyson Pedro, I'm going to go with him on this side. Did not look good in his last fight, but you can't really say Anton's looked good at all. In Anton's Contender Series fight, he didn't get signed after his performance. He actually got hit in the face a lot by a not very good Brazilian either. And then got signed on as pretty much a piece of meat for Jailton Almeida to feast on. And then facing Victor Petrino, he got hit in the face sometimes, and he just looked like those, like, bobs, the sparring things you just punch in the face, the rubber guys, and his head was just bouncing around and it looking all goofy. So he also took the back multiple times, got reversed. Nothing looked too great there. I think Tyson Pedro, I'll get into the downsides in his last performance in a little bit, but I think the submission is live here for Tyson Pedro. He could get, I think, Anton to the ground and have good control on him. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for Turkalj, in his last fight. Is probably 1-1 headed into that third round against Victor Petrino, and he just had no gas at all. That's a problem with Pedro as well. But I mean, Turkalj, like, he got reversed like multiple times in that fight. It was very hard to watch. I just think if Pedro's able to get him down in one of those bad positions, I think he'll be able to finish him.
Yeah, it's weird too. Like Anton on the Contender Series, when they were like hyping up his video, they were kind of making him out to be like the next big thing, like the Pleasure Man is here to stay. And then, you know, he had a shit performance. Tyson Pedro's last fight versus Bukauskas, he came out pretty fast, and he took down Bukauskas with a really good takedown, but slowed down as soon as he did that grappling, and then rounds 2 and 3, he was just in there to survive and didn't do anything, and he was kind of just mentally beaten. However, Anton's just not as technical as a striker as Bukauskas is, and coming into this one, I think Pedro could use his long teep kick, which he uses very well, and just straighter punches to keep Anton at range. And then, like you said, the ground game, Anton got taken down by Petrino with some of the shittiest takedowns I've seen, too. Like, this guy is known, Anton is known for having a decent ground game, and then Petrino would just turn and take him down sometimes in some weird situations. So, give me Tyson Pedro. Can't trust his mental fortitude, you could say.
Yeah, I can't trust his cardio either. I mean, all of his wins are by first round finish. So
right. All right, guys. That's Tyson Pedro by submission, round 1. Okay, guys, for the next fight, we have Justin Tafa versus Austen Lane, the rematch of the eye gouge. I think Justin Tafa, for one, should have been credited with the win in the last fight, just because the eye gouge was so bad. It should have been a DQ, in my opinion. It doesn't really matter too much. We're going with Tafa again. We picked him last time. Very little confidence in it, just because Austen Lane has like every measurable advantage. He doesn't have a gut that, you know, goes below his testicles and isn't all flabby. He's 6'6", he's an 80-inch reach. You know, you'd think that this guy would be good, but his hands are just straight trash, Austen Lane. So Justin Tafa, he just has better timing with his hands. He trains with better people. I think he finds a first-round knockout. I really like the under, just the way this last fight happened, too. So what do you think?
Yeah, I like the under as well. Yeah, like you said, in their last fight, I mean, Julian Lane was like towering, or Austen Lane, sorry, was towering over Tafa. I mean, he looked ginormous in there, but yeah, I mean, his hands just aren't that good. You're getting KO'd by
his fingers
Greg
are
Hardy,
good though. Those eye pokes.
Yeah, they are. He got KO'd by Greg Hardy in 2018. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really think Tafa should be minus 250 favorite, but I mean, these heavyweight fights could go either way, just with the power that each of them have. So,
if I were to set the line, mine would be minus 140 Tafa. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he should have a slight advantage just because he's seemingly has better technical striking. But,
and you'd think you'd call him more experienced just because he's been in the UFC longer, but Lane has more fights than him, so that's always a weird component to it as well. Austen Lane has actually some decent kicks as well. Like, he's got like a decent body kick, and if he could just use those the entire fight, he actually wouldn't be that bad. But again, like we were saying with his hands don't know what they're doing, and his head doesn't know where to be. And he keeps his chin straight up in the air. And Tafa had like one punch where it came actually pretty close to just clocking him in the last fight. So I don't feel good about Lane's chin or durability or anything there. And Tafa, if he can eat the body kicks until whatever, yeah. I like the under though. So Tafa, KO, round 1. Okay, for the next fight, we have Tuivasa versus Alexander Volkov. Man, it's like I don't want to call this a complete Chris Daukaus situation, but Tuivasa is getting put through the ringer a little bit here with some of the biggest and fastest heavyweights, and I gotta go with Volkov here. It's just going to be one of those things where Tai Tuivasa kind of has two punches, the left hook and the right hook, and Volkov has a teep kick, straight punches, and he honestly could even take this fight to the ground if he really wanted to, and I think, honestly, whenever. I know that's not his game at all. He's a striker, but he could take it to the ground if he wanted to. And I gotta go by knockout. Volkov's punches are just so punishing, and they do so much damage to his opponent's faces. That Jairzinho knockout would be a good example of it. Touched Jairzinho a couple times, and Jairzinho stumbling around. But yeah, I like Volkov here. It's tough for Ty, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I just think Volkov will be using his height and reach advantage. I think the teep kick up the middle and his straight punches, I think will win him this fight. Yeah, like you said about Ty, I mean, I didn't like... after the Gon fight, all the damage he took in that, and then he came back and fought 3 months later. I didn't like that at all for him, and I mean, he got finished pretty brutally again. But yeah, I mean, who doesn't like Tai Tuivasa? I want him to win, but I just don't see it.
I mean, if he pulls off this win in Australia too, it'll be one of those like knockout of the year performances. I would bet, because
it would have to be.
He's in front of a home crowd. He's fighting a giant. You'd think the crowd would rally against him, and he has a pretty decent. He has an okay chance of getting this finish, but overcoming again that reach. I mean, look how bad Volkov made Alexander Romanov look. Just like instantly over. Obviously, Romanov has no heart, and Ty is like all heart and fat and alcohol. But yeah, I gotta go with Volkov. Any more thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, Volkov's not really getting KO'd often by people. I mean, it's just the one. Derek Lewis won at the end of round 3, and then one other one in Bellator in 2013, I think. It was a really long time ago, but yeah, he's really not getting finished, and that would be how Ty would win. Yeah,
I mean, Derek Lewis's balls were hot when he knocked out Volkov too. That's kind of the reason why it happened anyway. So, and Volkov was on his way to winning that fight. But anyway,
exactly.
Volkov KO round 2. Okay, guys, made it to the main event. Guys, please drop a like, subscribe. Again, taking this channel to 1K, and we need you guys' help get there. So, main event, we got Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland, also known as Deshaun, also known as the Gangsta, the White Trash. I don't know, but I don't really feel like there's too much even a point to breaking down a lot of this fight, because you guys know these fighters all too well. It's going to be Izzy. It kind of has to be Izzy. The way Izzy can really get beaten by people for the most part is a power puncher, and Sean Strickland just isn't that style. He has to overcome a reach advantage in this fight. It's going to be an uphill battle, but the press conferences and the interviews and all that will be amazing. So, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think the build-up will be a lot better than the actual fight.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, even if there was a slight chance for Strickland, I think it would have to be in the Apex cage as well. I think in the bigger cage for Adesanya, I think that'll help him even more. I just think leg kicks at range, him moving around the octagon. I think Strickland will just have a hard time finding him and be able to land those combinations.
This fight is seriously going to be leg kicks versus punches. That's what the whole fight's going to be. It's going to be Izzy just chopping at the leg and Sean moving forward with his, as Dan Hardy likes to say, cocksucker guard, where he puts his hands like one over the other. He's be doing his usual style of iCarly stuff. And I hope that he wears a do-rag to these press conferences, and he's probably calling him Izzy all the names. You can call him like a dog. I don't know. You say a dog fucker. A China slut. Maybe Izzy will say he's Chinese at the press conference. That'd be actually kind of funny if Izzy would lean into it instead of pulling away from it. But Sean will be a wild man. I wanted to wear a white shirt. I don't have like a perfectly white shirt, and I want to get a do-rag for this breakdown. I don't got one on me either, so maybe I need someone to send me something. But Izzy's going to win this by decision. It's just going to be a chasing battle. And again, Izzy's been on these weird performances. The judges like him, you know. I don't think there's been any like crazy robberies. Obviously, there's a close fight with Whitaker, but like even against Cannonier like won the third round or something, extremely clear, and 2 of the judges gave it to Izzy still. So Sean would have to do some like serious damage to take some of these rounds. Yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I like decision as well. I mean, Strickland's tough. I mean, he just obviously got caught against Pereira, but yeah, I mean, Adesanya had his one good performance of the year, so I think we see another decision here. Probably a pretty boring one for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, if you were Israel, you probably should try to put on a little bit of a clinic, because there's not really as much of a threat of a knockout, because Sean's just not that guy. And I don't really think Sean will get knocked out, because Sean always fades away on his punches. You know, he throws his hands out to the side and leans his head back. And Izzy doesn't really step through on punches, because Izzy is always leaning his head back all the time. So it's probably just going to be a lot of, like I said, leg kicking, Sean missing strikes. It would be absolutely insane if Sean won this belt. His lifestyle change and the shit that would be said after this would be absolutely insane. I'm cheering for the man. He doesn't have too great of odds. I parlayed Haqparast, Volkov, and Adesanya all together at plus money. I think that hits. I don't really see Strickland getting it, but I hope he does. So
yeah, bring that belt back to America, Strickland.
We need a white trash motherfucker. Do-rag. I don't know. Him and Chris Curtis need to wear the belt together. But yeah. Any more thoughts here?
No, not really.
Yep. All right. Adesanya by decision. All right, guys. Turned in a nice little card for Gane versus Spivak. Final results, plus 1.32 units. Kept it pretty simple, this card. 4 bets. Didn't feel the need to risk anything huge. And it was a card of the favorites, man. If you had the favorites, you won. This is also the card of the French, other than Zara Farine, who I'm sure no one bet on anyway. So I'm sure a lot of tappers did a great job out there. I'm sure you guys had a pretty good card as well. But yeah, we had a pretty decent one. Starting it off, Benoit Saint Denis. He's just a dog, man. I could have gotten a way better line on this. I sat on it way too long. He looked huge. You know, he left his chin up in the air a couple times, but for the most part, dominant and just wanting to kill, whereas Moises is just not that guy. And swarmed him. The grappling was better. The damage was better. The work to the body was good. And he's always just going to be a pretty good guy to bet on, because he'll fight for your money. I had over 2.5 in the Angelosa Reese McKee fight. That was a scary one. Angelosa had about Reese McKee out of there. I thought it was going to be stopped. Somehow they let it keep going. Angelos has just been to too many decisions. He doesn't have that clear knockout power as we just saw. So made it through that one, a little bit nerve-wracking. Moving on. Ozdemir and Dushkov. That was a bad call by me. I felt like Ozdemir just came out so slow in so many of his fights. And both these guys had their hands down and were throwing fight-ending shots. So neither person's protecting their chin. And it was just bound in that first round for somebody to go down. And props to Vulcan. I think he felt more confident as well to come out and actually go for a finish, because he's this ranked guy, and Dushkov really doesn't have a name for himself yet in the UFC. So finishing off the card, parlayed Basharat and the over 2.5 in the Rose fight. Basharat, easy money. Just knew he was going to be the better grappler. Beat good line movement there. And then Rose and Farrow. Rose just too timid. She just doesn't have that mentality. It doesn't seem like, Farrow also fought a great fight, so you can't blame Rose too much, but she had a hard time breaking down that range and getting in there, and neither person really has Rose doesn't really have the KO power at 125, especially on Faro, and Faro doesn't really have the KO power for Rose, so pretty stalled out card there. But yeah, good results. I'm sure you guys did really well. Morgan Charrier showed up. I thought Jocelyn Edwards got robbed, but I honestly didn't watch the fight super clearly. I thought she won the first 2 rounds, lost the third. But yeah, pretty good results. Again, continuing the win streak. That's 3 straight winning cards in a row, piling up around 4 units on those cards. So stay tuned, guys. Those bets for the next card will drop on Thursday this week, and let's just keep killing it. Peace.
I know. It doesn't matter from the trenches. I'm built like this. The old doubted me, I couldn't do it. The Austen, I couldn't do it. Look at me now.